Hello to everyone out there who is listening. This is the first edition of the Hustle and Motivate podcast. I am one of your hosts, Marcus, the owner of Intellect Media, a wedding cinematography company located in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. We actually did this episode once before, and it turned out to sound terrible, so we're doing it again. We may play the first one for bloopers, but I know a lot of you are wondering, what is this podcast going to be about? And the purpose of this podcast, I'm going to let the second host, Will Hawkins of Will Hawkins Photography, tell you about that.
Well, I feel the purpose of this podcast is to just talk about everything industry, man. There's not really an outlet to where vendors can talk about everything that's going on in the industry and just give people that are coming in advice, because there's not a lot of platforms to go to where people can get advice when they're just trying to come in. So hopefully we can motivate some people doing this.
So I guess this is the first episode. We want to make this introduction episode. So how did this come about, Will? How did you get started in the photography world?
Well, when I was 19, I was just trying to find something to do in life. So I had a cousin who's a photographer in DC, and he called me up one Saturday and said, "Hey man, I got a shoot in Portsmouth. What are you doing today?" I really didn't have anything going on, so I went to Portsmouth to this hair shoot that he was doing, and I saw all the lights, the gear, the lenses, the cameras. The models played a big part of it, and it was like, this is something I could do. This is something I could get with. So I hustled my way to getting my first camera, and then it's been rolling since then, man.
So you really just got into this because you saw pretty women?
I wouldn't say that. No, I wanted to be a director in high school, so it was kind of all camera based. Like, I just wanted to do something creative, and I didn't want to leave the area. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and the only way to do that was to leave Hampton Roads. I felt anyway. Now in 2019, that's not even. You don't even have to do that. But back then in 2011, the only way to really, make it, I guess, to me in the film industry would have been to move to New York, Atlanta, or Los Angeles. So I found a way to get my creative outlet, and photography was something I fell in love with immediately when I saw him taking the photos and how they were coming out. And that was amazing to me. So about you, sir? Let's how'd you get started? All these years I've been knowing you, I've never asked you this, so you got to be pretty elaborate with this, man. Like, what's up? What's the deal?
Well, I started about 15. Interesting story. My mother, back then I was heavily involved in church. My mother wanted me to be involved in church.
Thing, man.
We went all the time, and she wanted me to do something, and I was kind of like a chill, quiet guy in my early teenage years.
She wanted you to do something involving video in the church?
She wanted me to do something in the church, period.
Okay.
And I was cool with people, but I hadn't come out my shell with outside of my friends that I had at home. So she wanted me to do something. There was no way I was going to sing. I wasn't really into the whole ushering and being seen by people. So my dad covered for pretty much like my second father. Covered for him while he went on vacation. So my dad did video, and I stood up there with him, and I kind of saw it. And then I found out they were paying. And I was like, okay, well, they weren't paying much. They was paying like $25 or $75 a Sunday or something like that. It was back in the VHS days. And I'm just like, hey, I mean, I can do it. Whatever. I ain't got nothing to do. And my mother can't say I'm not in doing something in church, and she can leave me alone. So I did that, and then didn't pay it no mind. Was terrible at it. So was doing it literally for the money. So then went to college and didn't necessarily want to go to college. As anybody that's back then in that era when I came up, 2005 when I graduated, just trying to figure it out. I was just chilling. I didn't know what I was going to do. So my mother suggested I go to college because back then they were kind of homing in on hammering in college. They really weren't talking more about what you can make it outside of college. So graduated and went to Norfolk State, did graphic design, realized I did not like to draw at all. And that's all they wanted you to do for your first couple of years there. So didn't really excel at that. So then I transferred over to music media because I was like, well, I could just be a producer in the studio. I like the little board they got, and I like mastering and stuff like that.
Wait a minute. You were doing like full-fledged music producing?
Yeah, I had a mixtape.
You lying, man.
I did. Me and my class, we called ourselves Music 365 because that was the title of the class and the number. And we dropped the mixtape. We dropped the mixtape.
Do you still have this
mixtape? I cannot find it, but if I could, I definitely wouldn't play it up here because it was some very funny things that people could take offense in today's society.
Well, we'll leave that alone.
Yeah, if anybody wants to ask me the single,
email you about that.
You can ask me about that later. But it's funny, but at the same time, in this climate, people would take that totally to the heart, and we couldn't have fun like we did back then. So I wanted to do that, but in the process of doing that, I took a music video class with a professor and got Final Cut and kind of saw how you could master that and slow it down and rewind and cut stuff up and make something seem like it totally is different and put different music to it and all that. And I was like, man, this is it. It's what I want to do. And at the time before that, my grandmother, I used to go to her house and we used to watch Collateral with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise every day. Literally every single day I was there, we watched that and kind of picked up. If you watch something so many different times, you find different ways to analyze it, or you notice little things you didn't notice in the first 200 times you watched it.
It's not the average human, sir.
And I figured it out. And then I saw The Matrix, and I was like, man, that's cool too. So it all was like a bubble. And I went to college transferred to Regent, very expensive school. Wish I would have kind of went to ODU, but I definitely met some great people, and that made it all worth it. So,
would you say that Regent's film school is better than ODU's? I'm sure you did your research.
ODU, when I went, ODU, Hampton, Norfolk State didn't have dedicated film programs. Like Liberty has one now. Everybody's kind of developing that now that video is becoming like a full out major. Mm-hmm. Everybody's kind of developing their own. So when I came up, Regent's kind of like their home thing. They could just say, we focus strictly on films and TV, and they could get all the students. But now it's kind of wide open. I think you can go anywhere. As long as you get a degree and learn networking, you really don't learn until you get out there and do it on your own. So I did that and kind of just fell into it, man, and kind of been rocking with it ever since.
Okay, so how do we get to the wedding and event industry?
Nobody would hire me out of college. Let's just call it what it is. We're going to be real. What college doesn't tell you is that certain majors, you come out, they want experience. So if you come fresh out, and if this business is a who you know, Hampton Roads Weddings is who you know as well. And I didn't know anybody. I was different than the other kids that went to their school. I was full-time student, and I had 2 jobs. So I had bills. Unlike a lot of those kids, they kind of were not necessarily sheltered, but they didn't have to work as much as I did. They kind of were able to focus on schools because they were, and it allowed them to kind of get out there and network a little bit more. I was really surprised I made it and maintained the GPA I had. But
working as much as you did?
Yeah, I had 2 jobs. I was working overnight, and I had to get it because my father made me pay bills. And that was just the way it went.
I mean, that's the responsible thing to do, though.
It worked. It worked out great now, thanks to that. And so I graduated, and then I didn't know what I was going to do. I said, man, I'm going to go get a job around here. And I don't know if anybody else does video around here, but they don't start you off paying very much. So the starting pay for what I was doing was not more than what I was making at my regular job that I had. So I was like, well, I'm not doing that. And then people just started finding out, when people find out you do video, man, or anything with art, photography, music, everybody wants to say, hey, man, can you do this? And I had a friend named Alex Leaf, and he just was throwing business my way, little bitty hustle money. I mean, $200-$300 when you ain't really made no money.
Let's stay there, though.
That's a lot of money.
Like, that's a startup. So do you feel like, would you have done that for free, or would you have taken that and learned and made your mistakes doing the little, BS jobs here and there to learn? Or you much rather have made your mistakes doing that than
when you don't charge a lot, you got a lot of room to
mess up, right?
Yeah, or you put out a product, because back then I thought my product was hot. I thought it was hot. I mean, I was realistic with myself, knowing that I didn't know everything I should know, but I thought I was popping. I really did. I thought, hey, for what they paid, this is pretty good. And that's the thing. You don't want to come out the gate trying to charge what you think the market is, because the market has expectations. And if you haven't gone through, those smaller jobs that, didn't have high expectations, they're kind of just happy to have it documented and it's clean, then you wouldn't learn how to make mistakes and deal with that. So that's like a tip that we will cover later, but be real with yourself. So I did that, took a lot of jobs, man, and just had to go, start my own business, because, I mean, you can't be out here making money on the side. And I just said, man, if anybody gonna hire me, I'd do it myself. And here we are.
Was it a barrier?
What do you mean?
To get into weddings?
A big one. You just can't walk up in here and, I mean, you can come in here and do weddings, but nobody's gonna know you. I mean, I spent 2 years kind of building my equipment up, grinding and doing my thing and trying to make it, and kind of under the radar, just because you don't want to come out and you don't have anything, no portfolio and anything. That's one thing I didn't learn at Regent, is you got to have a portfolio. You got to be able to show people your work. You can't come up to me and give me a business card and then I go to your website and I don't see anything.
Well, that was
you.
That was
It was you. And I didn't want to be that guy. So I didn't have a lot. I didn't have like the great weddings I have now, but they were good for what I was doing back then, and great couples. And I met a couple vendors who just would throw me business, and I was doing a lot of beach weddings. When they was popular, man, I was doing a lot of those, and just kept going until I felt like 2014 was the time to meet people. But how did you get started
in weddings?
Yeah, outside of being fraudulent, which we'll get to that in a minute.
I was at my job one day, and my day job that I was working at the time I was at, and I was still, like I said, I was 19. I was focused on how can I become a photographer. So one day I was at my job and I got bored. So I'm going to stop working. I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to go to YouTube and look up photography videos. And I came across wedding photography with Jasmine Starr, who was like a big influence on me in my early years. And she had this video talking about her climb into the industry and how everything she had been doing to build up her wedding business. And I just fell in love with it from there, man. I saw that video, saw the photos that she took, and I decided at that moment I was going to be a wedding photographer. It was July of 2011, I want to say. So that was it, man. I got a camera a week later. I hustled my way to get a camera. So the funny part about that is getting that camera, I had $1,000 in a bank account that I forgot about as a teenager. And
You had $1,000.
I had $1,000 in the bank account that I forgot about.
No teenager will forget about $1,000.
I forgot all about it because my dad wouldn't allow me to touch it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, I didn't even, like you just, whatever. I forgot it was there. So I went up to him. I was like, hey man, can I borrow like $500 to get a camera? And he was like, how much you got towards it? I'm like, nothing. That's why I'm asking you, can I have the whole $500? He was like, no. Like,
sir,
that's messed up, man.
I need this money.
Like, you don't understand. I'm trying to do something. So I go to work that morning after I asked him that. And my girlfriend at the time was like, I told her what I was trying to do. And she told me it was a job that you do on the weekends. It's like a part-time job that people do just on the weekends. Like, my thing was, you don't understand what I know. I done learned something. Like, yo,
people with full out
this
careers.
This is a full-time thing. Like, this is not something that you take lightly.
I'm probably gonna work more than you are.
Yes. And so we during our break one day, she got on Craigslist and found this camera for like $575. And I'm like, man, how can I get this? I got to get this camera. Like, it was stayed on my mind. Like, I have to get this camera. So I sat around at work all day thinking about how I could get the camera. And it came back to me. I was like, hey, man, you got $1,000 saved up that you forgot all about. So I went to BB&T that afternoon when I got off work. I was over 18, so they let me have my money. Rolled up to Williamsburg. Got the camera, came back, didn't know an f-stop from a bus stop.
You got the camera without your dad knowing you took the money out?
He knew I took the money out because he rode me to Williamsburg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My raggedy truck was not going to make it to anybody's Williamsburg at the time.
Okay, so now that you got the camera, so you thinking...
I'm about to be the GOAT at doing this. Like, don't know anything about a shutter speed, a f-stop, ISO, nothing. Like, I cut the camera on thinking it was going to be, the digital screen on the back of the camera. Mm-hmm. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. I didn't even know that the in-camera meter was a thing. Like,
oh, Jesus.
It was bad. So I pretty much like set up my own classes. Like, I watched a lot of Creative Live classes, and when I got off work in the afternoons, I would just take my camera and ride around Virginia Beach, like taking pictures. Like, today I'm gonna work on aperture. Tomorrow I'm gonna work on shutter speed. I'm gonna figure out how shutter speed, ISO, and aperture all correlate with each other. And I learned how to shoot in manual within 2 weeks. Like, I didn't have it down packed the way I do now, but somebody
pretty much had
the foundation of it. Like,
you had the science to it.
Yes, like all three of them work together, and you have to know that. And I learned it in 2 weeks. Like, I never learned anything that fast. Like, I dropped out of school and I never was a good student. So for me to learn something,
most of the time when you're passionate about something, like, quick, you can get it quick if it's something that really piques your interest.
And I was going to Best Buy a lot. Like, I would get off work and just go hang out in Best Buy.
They pretty much probably thought you was going to steal.
They pretty much thought I was going to steal, but they would come over there and talk to me. Pretty much, like, yeah. But I just wanted to be around cameras, man. I even got cool with the Ritz camera lady in Lynn Haven Mall. I missed that store.
It was just like, hey, Will, are you ever going to come in here and buy something?
Never.
Oh, we're just going to keep talking.
Never. I never came in there and bought anything. I asked her for a job, and the camera stores was doing so bad at the time, she couldn't even hire anybody.
That's the reason why they're not here now.
Yeah, it's terrible, man. But nobody wakes up one day and just decides to be a videographer. Like, did you have any inclination, like, as a child, that you wanted to be like a business owner or a videographer even?
Well, my whole dream was to be a general manager of some sports team. So
that's throwing it back.
Yeah, way back. But I will always action figures and all that. I have my, for those who our little millennials. I don't think y'all. Well, you old enough for action figures.
Yeah,
But
never played with them.
Ninja Turtles, Batman, I had all of them. My dad financed me in that, so I would have my own stories, man.
By the way, you are a millennial. Just to put that out there.
I know, man. I get older and older and get away from it, but I would make my own movies up, man. I'd be down there with my cave on my bed, and I'm jumping off stuff with I got dialogue and everything. I got
you
real
made
stories.
a whole script.
I got real stories. Like I got villains. I got Batman versus Ninja Turtles, and Batman always won. But I mean, I'm deep in it,
Right.
and didn't pay it no mind. And then I had my cartoons, that Dragon Ball Z, and all these other different TV shows that I would just watch and watch and watch. And I was always watching something and playing action figures. Then I go outside, and as I got older, and I became more allowed to see certain movies, like Any Given Sunday. My parents don't know this, but I hope they don't ever find. Well, if they listen, they're gonna find out now.
It's a good movie, though.
But they had rented it. Blockbuster days, they had rented it, and I would wait till they go to sleep, get in and watch it. And not because, well, one was because rated R, and they told me I couldn't watch it, so I'm gonna watch it anyway. And
you know, that's kind of like the Patriots right now. Just to get off topic, just a little bit.
we're not gonna talk about football. So I pretty much watched it, and it was just cool to see how they action and all how they did everything. But I just never had a plan. I just thought, hey, it was kind of cool. I didn't think that far. Nobody wants to think that far. I wasn't the best student in high school myself. I was bored, and they didn't have video in high school when I was coming up, so I was literally bored. I would go to school and hang out, and that was about it. I would do my work, but for the most part, we was in there chilling. So I didn't necessarily think about, in 4 years, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. It was like, it's January, and everybody's getting accepted into colleges, and I haven't applied to one yet. And my mother...
That's an early process.
Yeah, super early. I didn't have the grades.
You just knew that I'm not even going to attempt to do this.
No. And I wasn't going to the military because 9/11 had already happened, and that just wasn't going to happen. So it was one of those things where I hit a crossroads, man, and just didn't know. I just didn't know. And then, like I said, my mom recommended I go. And then that Norfolk stayed on. I just kind of felt like, hey, man, I like this. This is cool, man. I became just engulfed in it. And I got the region and just became more and more just engulfed in learning it and, doing stuff, but never really having time. But in my spare time, that's what I did. And then when I graduated, I got with a guy named Greg Boyd, who's kind of was in the weddings when I was coming up, and he needed an editor. And he said, hey, man, I'll try you out. And I edited one of his ceremonies, man. I was like, wow, the different angles, the cleanness. I was like, man, this is it. This is what I'm going to do as far as edit. I didn't want to shoot because I didn't like being on sets with people and getting to know people and all the other stuff. I just didn't care about being cool.
Are you saying you're not a people person? Is that what you're saying right now?
I'm saying I wasn't a people person with people that reach it.
We got you.
Some of them were cool. Some of them were awkward.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily that. It's just you're being with people that you don't know for 12 hours, if that.
It's a long time.
It's a long day. It's a lot of personalities.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people who, you're young, you're not mature, so you
Right.
got people who thinking they hot stuff. Then you got people who play well together. You got some people who don't, who don't play well together. So I'd rather just...
Everybody's trying to prove a point.
Everybody's trying to prove a point. Everybody's trying to get their portfolio work. And they don't mean nothing evil by it. It's just, that's what they did. And I didn't necessarily want to be on set. So I wanted to edit. And, man, he gave me that editing job for a couple little weddings and paid me like $125. And I'm like, hey, man, if I can get 3-4 of these a week,
yeah,
I'm set.
Yeah. Plus what you're doing at your job.
Yeah, plus I'm doing my job. So I'm like, I'm set. This extra money, not thinking I'm editing on I think at the time I had an iMac. I just got an iMac through student loans, but I had a PowerBook, like old school, before the MacBook, and that thing kept crashing every time I tried to render. So I got the iMac and I was just editing, man. He was throwing them out my way. I think he hit me for like 3 straight. Like, bam, boom, 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 boom. That's like $175 a piece. I'm like, this is where it's at.
This is where it's at.
Not knowing $175 to edit is literally highway robbery, Greg. Just want you to know that.
It really is.
I hope you're listening. You got over on me, bro.
What you got to do? What is it? A 5-minute house? It won't even. I bet
it was a ceremony. It was 30 minutes. 30-minute ceremony edit.
Ain't too bad, man.
30-minute ceremony edit for somebody who doesn't know how to edit.
Oh, it took you days.
Because back then, multi-camera wasn't really the thing. Multi-camera hadn't come to Final Cut like it is. It's easy that anybody can edit now. It's pretty sad. But back then, Final Cut 7 and regular Final Cut, you don't necessarily it was just a lot harder if you ask anybody who came up in those 7 days. So I was literally spending a week
on
30 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
And once again, Greg, I put in more time on them edits than I was doing at my job.
Hey, Greg, man, you might want to hit this man up. And
back pay needs to be discussed.
Back pay needs to be.
Next time I call you better say, look, man, I give you a discount. So I did that, man. I had a friend who wanted to do a wedding, and they asked me to do it, and my wife's grandparents needed one, and I did the highlight for them. Terrible highlight, had no idea of concept. I was just recording, editing together, putting a little highlight. I still actually have that on like my Vimeo page, so you can go search it and find out how far your boy came. And then just didn't understand, and then as you go into it and you do more and more, and you see and you study and you take, I put so much stuff on my credit cards, video wise, just to study other people and put myself, out there just getting all these different classes back then when classes weren't really, everybody wasn't trying to educate back then. So, it was a little bit more expensive to seek knowledge. And I just went for it, man, and started my own business. Like I said, just kept churning until I got to the point where I was ready to quit my job.
So no one wakes up and decides that they are going to just quit their job, sir. That is, some people do, but there had to have been things in place. Like, what made you, boom, let's do this?
I had always been ready to leave my job.
Okay.
But it was never the right time, and I had bills, and that's the thing. When you have financial responsibilities, you just can't up and leave. So one day I got into the business, met people like, Carla Walker and Emer, however you say his last name, of Showbride, Cedric, who had 757 wedding professionals at the time. I got with them, Miss Michelle, Marlena Events. I kind of met those guys. Mike Dragon was the first person I ever met of Dragon Studio, and kind of just piggybacked off their knowledge, and they threw me weddings and doing weddings. And I met people like Ross Costanza, Dustin Lewis. Then I finally got introduced to different vendors at the time, and I was getting business, and people like me. I like people. So I was I wasn't trying to really treat people the wrong way. And that's another thing. You treat people right, people will treat you right. So that's really the key to longevity, in my opinion. Your skills, yeah, but you good karma, treat people the right way. Don't look to get over on them, and don't look to take, and don't look to always, make it about you or all that stuff. Just, be a team player, and it'll keep you around in this business. So 2014.
How many did you have on the calendar?
I was looking good. I had about,
this was
21.
In early 2014?
Yeah. I had about 21, 22.
Yeah, that's a definite.
I had enough. I take that back a lot. I did not have that. I had 15, but I had 1 to 2 every month that I was making more. I was making enough to match what I was making at Centera.
Okay.
And I literally went to my pops, because I was staying with him at the time, and I said, hey, man, that's what I want to do. And he was like, man, as long as your bills are paid and you ain't, putting yourself in no type of financial position, man, he was like, I'm with it. You got to do what make you happy, and I'm using my degree, so it was a win-win. I told him if it wasn't working in a year, I could always go back to Centera. So we was cool with it. We talked about it. He wasn't going to miss his rent payments, which I can understand as you trying to teach your child a lesson, or teach them different things they need to learn to make it. And he just rode with me on that, man. So I quit. I was so excited to give that lady that 2-week notice. I couldn't stand her. And I don't even remember her name, but if you recognize this voice, lady, I did not like you and you didn't like me. So let's keep that 100. And just keep it a buck. I couldn't stand her and she couldn't stand me. So
there were reasons. You've told me this story. There were reasons why this lady didn't like you, bro.
I don't get why she didn't like me. I didn't bother her at all. We didn't even work together.
She didn't like you because you was in the room editing videos.
She never caught me. Let's make that known. She never caught me. I personally just think she couldn't. I wasn't scared of her, and I think that was the thing. But whatever. I was editing, and then I was editing weddings on the clock. I was just doing my own thing. But I was not bad enough where they could fire me, so she couldn't touch me. That's why probably she didn't like me.
Yeah.
So I quit, went down, saw you, and immediately found out you got fired.
Like what?
What a
2
transition.
days? Like what? 2 days later,
you got fired the exact
same day.
So, but side note, let me tell y'all how I met Will, because I did not talk about that the first time we did this podcast episode, and I'm glad we are redoing it, so I can really tell y'all how fraudulent Will was when I first met him. So I'm trying to get a name for myself in the business. Don't know nobody yet. I get a call from, like I said, the 2 guys that taught me, Greg and a guy named Sean Brown, took me under their wing, kind of taught me everything I know, man. How to run a business, what products to be offering, how to shoot, what to pay attention to. I really give everything to those guys as far as building me up. And you take out dinner for that one day. So Sean calls me and said, "Hey man, I got a style shoot." I never heard of a style shoot. He said, "Look, man, normally it's a good way to meet vendors, and it's a good way to kind of get your name out there and be attached to people. And I got a guy who's looking for a videographer. Hold on, I'm gonna call him, get the information, just listen in. You don't gotta say nothing." So Will had no idea I was on the phone. So Sean calls Will. Will picks up the phone in the most mellowest voice on earth. He sounded older than what he was.
I was at work.
He's like,
I was on the phone
"What's
at my
going on,
desk at
What's
work."
going on, man? Yeah, just need somebody for this weekend. We're gonna start about 11. What style shoot starts at 11? But anyway, we'll start about 11.
Terrible light.
We'll be done about 1, 2. So at the Hilton, Hampton Inn. We was at that. Where we at? We was at Holiday Inn. We was at Holiday Inn on Military Highway. Holiday Inn Express. So I said, "Cool, man. I'm gonna get there." My car broke down, so I got my girlfriend's car, which was my wife, and she was so happy. I dressed up, man. Had me a green polo, had my dress pants on, and had on my dress shoes. I'm rolling in there, ready to go.
He walks in, and I'm like, "This guy's legit." Wow.
I don't see Will until like 20 minutes after being there. And they're like, "Will's downstairs shooting the details." I'm like, "Okay, cool." This short guy comes up. To this day, I don't know how old Will is. And we down there, and we working, man. We vibing. I set up a shot. I said, "Hey, man, you want this?" He's like, "Cool, man." He leaning here, doing angles he's not supposed to be doing. Now that I think about it. Getting low angles on people,
on
that
women.
You should not be doing. So we go outside. I have no idea what light is because I'm still learning. We out there. It's hot. 1:00. Real got the Rolls Royce out there, and he's out there with a light on
that can be blown over.
He's got a flash and he's got an umbrella. I don't know.
Mind you, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know. And we out there shooting. Then Will, as we walk, he said, "Hey man, I need a promo, man. What we can work something." I'm like, "Oh man, let's work." I called my lady. I said, "Look, just might have a promo. Meet with the guy and everything." She said, "That's great." Told him the price. I said, "Man, look, man, I do 300. I'm giving him a deal. Thinking of 300, cool. I would probably want to charge 5, whatever." So Will's like, "Yeah, man, I'm cool with that, man. I'll meet you. Let's meet at Greenbrier, Panera. I give you 150 when we signed the contract." I said, "Bet 150, man. We in there. Meet him. talked to him, never got his website, never looked it up. Signed the contract, get the money. A couple days later, he said, yeah, I want to do this Jasmine Star thing and pictures hanging and all this other stuff. I said, all right, cool, man. So I watched the Jasmine Star video. I'm planning, got a lighting guy that I went to college with. Me and him vibing. He down to help. And I happened to go to Will's website. Will is more further back than I was when it came to knowing how to shoot. His website was atrocious. Like, I had realized I had been hoodwinked the entire way. I should have charged him way more, and that taught me to do my research before I go in here talking to people. Will literally was the true definition of fraudulent.
I wouldn't say fraudulent, man.
You got over on me, and I tell everybody I know, every time they ask me how we met, I tell him he lied. He made me think he was something spectacular. He had no idea what he was doing. His first promo had people who were not in the industry in it. They were in a whole new industry. A whole nother industry. Y'all can ask me later who the people that what they did, but they definitely was not into weddings.
No.
And they definitely was not homemakers. So y'all can ask that later. But
look, man, I was
definitely
21.
tell you. He's 21. Didn't know that part either.
Old,
he comes out there with a top hat on, dress shoes.
Oh, you mean, okay, you talking about when we did the promo. That's
dress shoes and a sweater. And we at Oak Grove Park. So y'all know where Oak Grove Park is. This man is overdressed. I still have that promo if you want to watch it. I did some great work on it, but Will had no idea what he wanted to do. And he realized he was not Jasmine Star.
Yes.
So let's just want to bring that up. Now we can go back to where we was at. So Will, well, you kind of were forced to.
I was forced.
Like, what made you not want to go get another job? How did you get fired? Let's tell that great story how they fired you, because they should have fired you 6 months prior.
Man, I should have got fired at 16 when I first started there.
Mind you, he's 16. He's 21 at the time.
I was 21 at the time when I got fired. Or was I? Yeah. Yeah, I was 21. And so the lady calls me in the office, but let me go back first. So the day before I got fired, this guy calls my phone. I'm not used to getting phone calls for photography. So if somebody calls me and say they have a job for me,
we're leaving.
I'm leaving.
I don't care if y'all gonna stop me. I'm gone.
So I tell her I gotta go. Like, I got an emergency or something. Like, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
So I went to go do these headshots, and they were terrible. And I got a point at my job for that. So a day before this shoot, Dustin Lewis and Miss Michelle called me and say they want me to come out and photograph their open house. So I leave work early that day. So finally, the office manager calls me and she's like, we need you to come down to the office. So I go down to the office and they say, well, your time here has been less than stellar. I said, well, I've been here 5.5 years. I don't, what do you mean? She said, yeah, your performance here has not been good in those 5.5 years at all. We're going to have to let you go. I said, oh. Okay. I was going to ask y'all, could I go part-time?
Anyway,
but
starting to boom out here.
Okay, there we go.
To know who I am.
So at this point, it's February or March. And I have 11 weddings on the books.
In your mind, I'm gonna make it.
I'm gonna be fine.
I don't need y'all.
I know I didn't even have 11. I did 11 that year. I had like 6.
In your mind, I can stretch this.
I'm gonna make this work. So they fire me. I feel like this burden coming off my shoulders as I'm packing my box and walking out of the building and going to go get in my vehicle with no heat. And I'm like, uh-oh. Yo,
I don't have a job
anymore. I had retainers in my bank account, and my phone bill was due on Friday.
All that money's gone.
All that money is gone. So I'm living off a credit card for like a month. And finally I get some second shooting jobs. All that summer, Mike Dragon hooked me up with second shooting jobs. I'm working, I'm learning. That fall, it got even better. Like, I'm working with Mike and Dustin like every weekend. Like, that, it was crazy. Like, the weekends I didn't have my own weddings, I was with them. It was the craziest thing ever. Like, and I think that I really owe those two guys, because I would have never gotten the education that I got, being day in and day out working weddings. Man, it was amazing, man. And that was a good year. That was a good year, man. So then going into the following year, what would have been
It's 2015.
2015? Yeah, it started rolling from there. Like, that was it. Like, spring 2015. A year later, after going through all the bumps and valleys of not having a job, not the ins and outs of not having a job that year, spring 2015, it was on. Like, we were good.
Mind you, you don't have a job. You're not full time.
Nope.
Nobody really knows you.
Nope.
So every bit of money you get, you've got to stretch that to live. So you can't even go out here and buy equipment.
No, I was renting a lot of gear.
This man rented a 7200 for a month.
A month. It was
All y'all
$122 a week. By the way,
everybody's thinking, oh, well, that makes sense. No. He was putting in week. He's putting in for a week.
Yeah, $122
He's supposed to send it back. He doesn't send it back.
Just renew it.
He just tells them. So he's paying to have it on days he's not working.
And Marcus is like, man, why don't you just send it back?
He's working maybe 3 times, maybe doing some engagement sessions. So he may be working 10 times
Groupon
out
was
of
popping back then, though, man.
He's not working enough where he can't just send that thing back. And for those who are listening, digital lens rental, Nick Sutton was not really where he's at now.
He wasn't even around yet.
He should really be appreciated for what he brought to this area.
Yes.
Because having to rent and then get charged $30, $40 in shipping costs, and they send you a coupon, 15% off. You like, bet.
Does nothing.
I'm gonna rent this, and I get it for $20 for 3 days. That's $60 to rent a 7200, and then they turn into the $50 shipping. And it turns out to be $100.
Yes.
Mind you, this man says he's paying $122
a
week. He bought the lens by the time he was done.
Yeah. After 2 months of having it, I did.
So they were happy to let him keep that lens. So just saying the struggle.
I never thought, I thought I would get a phone call throughout the week. I told you. I thought I would get a phone call.
He thought somebody was going to
Somebody was going to call me, and I was going to need that lens.
With a wedding at the last minute.
Who's going to call me at the last minute?
That they didn't know about, who didn't have a real website.
I had a lot of hope.
And he was spending more money than he was making.
I had a lot of hope.
Mind you, that's why I took the 2 years of building up my equipment to at least be respectable, where I could come in and go a little longer without having to buy some equipment. This man came out the gate with literally a lens with no caps on it. He didn't know what cleaning a lens meant when I first met him.
Look, man.
Just so y'all can understand the struggle of what this is, why we're making this podcast, so people can avoid these problems.
I'm telling you,
he was cleaning his lens
with my
on his shirt.
Oh man,
let that sink in.
Bringing back memories
on his shirt.
Is terrible, bro.
On his shirt.
I was 20, man.
He had no business in this business at 20. He had no business. Just so y'all know,
I was 20.
This is what I had to deal with when I met him. This is why when you see him, you can always say, "Hey, Will, Marcus was right. You were fraudulent."
I was not
when you were 20.
I just knew how to.
On top of that, mind you, he was also young, so nobody wanted to pay him because he looked young. Aren't you 16, sir?
Yeah, I looked 16 at 20. It was terrible. But no, man. Did you have any challenges starting?
Yeah, I didn't understand branding at all. People don't understand. Yeah, having the talent is great, and you can know how to shoot. But if people don't feel comfortable and you don't have a good brand out here, I went through 3 rebrands before I got where I am now, and I came in the gate with my first website was all black. black and gold. I don't know who in the wedding industry was gonna book it, but
I'm scared.
I
just
was trying to do
thinking about it.
corporate. I was trying to do weddings, and I was trying to do photography. Because
I know you want to do photos.
I didn't. I just thought that was
That was a
both
thing
would
to
make more
do.
money. Until I saw a photographer do family portraits after a wedding, and I said, "There's no way in hell I'm gonna stand here and take all these
family
pictures of these people when I could be doing something that I really want to do." That was boring to me. That was too much to me. I just couldn't do it. So I eliminated that from the brand. And Kim Porter, who was another good friend of mine who took a chance on a young guy growing up in this business, she was the one that actually texted me and said, "You do great work, but your brand does not scream weddings. Your website looks great, but it's too much. It's intimidating."
She was basically telling you, take all this down.
She was basically saying, you are not going to make it until you get something that is friendly to the eye. And I'm thinking, what you mean? I got purple colors up there. I had this is my second rebrand. I got blue and purple. Women love blue and purple. And I got, she's like, your text is too harsh.
Wow.
It's too bold. She was like, I'm a woman. I don't feel good.
I remember that site. It was very commercial.
I think I spent about $1,200 on that website getting it built. And she was like, this isn't going to work. So you need to think about what you're going to do to rebrand. Man. I said, wow.
She just tore you a new one, buddy.
Then I got hacked 3 months later, and I had to start over anyway. So I was trying to figure it out, man. I just literally just did a lot of research. And once I kind of got my brand going, I was gone, man. Mm-hmm. There was no, because video is still a luxury. It's not necessarily something that everybody thinks they need, but they do need, but they don't think they need it.
They want it
after
now.
It's over. You'd be surprised. Everybody still doesn't want it all the way, and it's fine. I understand that. You gotta kind of. It's another thing I had to go through is just accepting my position in the hierarchy, and at the same time not trying to. You can fight it, or you have to accept it and then kind of market to the ones that have you up there as the high.
It took him years to get there, by the way. I think he's just now getting there after being in all
this. Yeah, it took me about a year. It took me a lot of time being ignored by planners, and that planners having people, really not knowing. Just got to really not being educated for what they're used to seeing. I don't really blame them. It's just knowing that, hey, you got some videographers who show up and they just don't have any type of creative input. They just stand there. Versus me, I'm more creative, and I think, the ones who have worked with me have enjoyed it, and I'm not difficult, but, you got to train the mindset to change the narrative because they don't know. You can't be mad. And then once I got to that point, man, I'm gone, man. I'm just fitting in, getting in where I fit in, doing my own thing, and I've learned how to adjust to get what I want, but not necessarily fighting for it.
That's a big thing.
You got to, man. That's just the way it works, because you're never going to be in this area. You're not going to break the mentality that a photographer is not important. So I just dealt with it, and I'm good now. It took me 6 years, by the way.
Yeah, I think you're just now getting there.
But with where I am in my life now, and I'm 32, I don't have time to sit there and worry about that.
So people think like running a business is like easy. Like you and I both know that it's just not the case. Like I have people call me throughout the day and they're like, oh, can you go do this? Can you do that? Because they think that I'm just out not doing anything. But what does your day-to-day consist of? Like what's the day-to-day in videography, cinematography rather? Because I think you're a cinematographer.
I'm not a videographer. Yeah. Videographers
just do video,
and they have their own place. They have their own place, and they are great because they make their money as well. And I appreciate them because I feel like they keep me from having to kind of deal with clients that I don't necessarily think are right for me. But day to day, man, you wake up. It's a regular 9 to 5. I mean, at this point now, I don't work as long as I used to because I'm learning personal time is beneficial, and I'm learning how to work in spurts. So, man, I may get up, eat breakfast, go to the computer, check emails, send emails. Then I may edit 4 or 5 straight hours uninterrupted versus taking breaks all through. And before fifth hour, by 2 o'clock, man, I'm pretty much, riding the wave for the rest of the day, hit the gym and come back, edit emails, send proposals if I got to do all that, man. But when you first get it going to where doing what you got to do, you got to put in a lot of work. You got to build this thing up, build the foundation but once the wheel is kind of turning on its own, you don't have to do as much as you did when you first got in this business, man. I did the 2-3 hours in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and waking up at another 7 or staying up to meet a deadline and running myself ragged. And man, I can get a wedding done in 3 days now and get it back to clients in a month versus you take 2 months, sometimes 3 months, because I'm just taking a month before I touch it because I'm thinking my eyes need to take a break. But man, I'm jumping in them things and getting them out, getting them fresh, getting good quality, getting good different weddings, different creativity, doing different things because I do have breaks in my mind. I do have different things. I go to the movies. I'm married, so I do a whole lot of different things with my wife, and we go different places. And just got back from taking vacation. I've never taken a vacation in my life that I can remember where I actually left like the country. Well, not really. I didn't leave the country. We just went to Mexico, but.
You left the country then, sorry.
I just, you know what I mean? So I'm just doing all the things new and taking breaks at night. The business hours, I'm done. By 5 o'clock, I'm off that computer. And if it's not an email coming in, I can look at my phone or my iPad. I'm not going back in the office and working. I just can't. What about yourself? Since you're a single man and you kind of do a little more. You got a lot more hats than I do at this point.
Man, like a day to day with me is I wake up 7 o'clock. I'm trying to get up earlier than that because I really want to start going to the gym early. But I'll wake up, ride around in my truck for like an hour, getting my mind together. Then I'll come back home, start editing, answering emails, do everything I have to do, consisting of album design. Editing takes up a big portion of my day. I mean, I really don't have a set schedule because I work like you just said, you don't work in spurts anymore, but I work in spurts. Like, I'll stop working for a minute. I might study, go off on my laptop, start studying some videos on photos, and I'll work until 7, 8 o'clock at night sometimes. And then after that, if I feel like going out, I'll go out, get up next day, do the same thing. It just marketing days sometimes. I'll ride around, do marketing. It's just depending on how I feel. For the most part, I'm free.
Yeah, I'm an older man with responsibilities.
I'm free.
I don't have time to be free. I've got to maximize my day, and I don't got time to waste with it.
I'm free, man. Just do what I want. So in closing, what do you think the purpose of this is? Like, what can we expect going forward with this podcast?
Just to educate, man. We don't have one around here. We when I came in, there was a lot more different networking things you could do and different things you could attend to kind of get your name out there and meet. But there's no really, everybody wants to educate, and that's not a problem because, it's definitely good to educate and actually make money because off the years that you've put in, you should be able to monetize that. But, this is more just to let the vendor speak on their behalf of their experiences and allow them to clear up some, whatever. Allow people to clean up, some things that don't necessarily
get talked about.
Right.
And educate clients, educate other vendors.
Yeah, and they talk about things that really should be done the right way, or versus what's being done wrong, what people think in society versus what really goes on. From planners, other cinematographers, other photographers, style shoots, they're a big deal. Letting planners talk, that's a huge thing because they are the glue, and why they should really be on, every wedding. Why they need to be so on every wedding, and so we just need that second shooting. That's a big thing. That kind of was the reason why this podcast was created, but Will go on that rant later about why he wanted to do or thought about doing what I thought about it, and then he was ready because he had a lot of things he had to say about that subject. So just a lot of different things coming your way, man, and we just want to help. We just want to help and give everybody a voice that needs to have it.
Sure. So thank you guys for listening. Episode 1, Hustle and Motivate podcast. Remember, always respect the hustle if you earn from it, and motivate others in the process.